There is something many men over 60 experience, but almost never talk about. Not because they are weak, not because they are past their prime, but because their body slowly shifted, and no one explained why. This change does not happen overnight. It happens quietly. Sensitivity fades a little. Confidence slips a little. Peace of mind feels harder to reach. I'm Dr. Narita, a urologist. For over 12 years, I've listened to good men who thought something was wrong with them. In most cases, they weren't broken. They were using an old strategy for a body that had changed. This video is not about shame. It's about awareness. It's about learning how to work with your body again, instead of against it. If you're over 60, stay with me, because the first mistake is quietly numbing your brain. And many men mistake it for aging, overstimulating the brain with high-intensity visual input. Let me be direct. After 60, your brain does not respond the same way it did at 30 or 40. That's not weakness. That's biology. The brain's reward system becomes slower to reset. It needs more space to recover. When the brain is exposed to fast, intense, constantly changing visual stimulation, it adapts by turning the volume down, not because something is wrong, but because it is protecting itself. Over time, this creates a problem. Natural sensation feels muted. Real connection feels less engaging. Pleasure starts to feel mechanical instead of calming. Many men think, this must just be age, but often it's dopamine fatigue, the brain saying, I can't stay at this level anymore. You may notice subtle signs, needing more time to feel engaged, losing interest faster than before, feeling disconnected instead of relaxed afterward. The solution is not forcing more stimulation. That only deepens the numbness. The solution is resetting sensitivity. A simple, safe approach is this. Take a short break from intense visual input. About 2 weeks is enough for many men. During that time, focus on slower signals, breathing, body awareness, comfort, presence. The goal is not performance. The goal is letting your nervous system remember what natural response feels like. When stimulation becomes calmer, the brain often responds with clarity first, and clarity is where recovery begins. Using a bathroom as a habit space for self-relief. This one surprises many men because it feels harmless, private, convenient, a place where no one interrupts. Over time, the bathroom quietly becomes the default space for release. But the body remembers how you position yourself, even when you don't think about it. Most bathrooms force the same posture. Sitting, leaning forward, lower back rounded, pelvis compressed. After 60, that posture matters more than you think. Blood flow to the pelvic area becomes more sensitive to pressure. Nerves in that region recover more slowly. Muscles hold tension longer. When you repeatedly use a position, that restricts circulation and compresses the pelvis. The body adapts in the wrong direction. Not dramatically, not all at once. Quietly, over months or years, some men notice a heavy or tight feeling in the lower pelvis, less comfort afterward instead of relaxation, changes in urinary flow they can't quite explain. They rarely connect it to posture, but posture is information to the nervous system. Your body reads that position as hold, brace, protect. That's not the state where healing happens. The fix is simple and practical. Change the environment. Choose a position that allows openness, not compression. Reclining, lying down, standing with support. The goal is not novelty. The goal is space. When the pelvis has space, circulation improves. Muscles soften. The nervous system shifts out of defense mode. And when that happens, the experience becomes restorative again, instead of quietly draining. This is not about rules. It's about alignment. Your body doesn't need privacy alone. It needs support. And in the next part, we'll talk about a mistake that has nothing to do with place, but everything to do with pace. Treating the moment like a task instead of a recovery state. This mistake is very common, and it rarely comes from intention. It comes from habit. Over time, many men begin to approach private moments the same way they approach chores. Quick, efficient, get it done. But the body after 60 no longer responds well to urgency. When you rush, your nervous system reads one clear message. There is pressure. Heart rate rises too fast. Breathing becomes shallow. Blood vessels tighten instead of opening. You may reach the end. But your body never enters a true recovery state. That's why some men notice this pattern. Afterward, they feel flat instead of calm, restless instead of settled, drained instead of restored. This is not a motivation problem. It's a nervous system timing problem. Your body now benefits more from slow signals than strong ones. Healing hormones are released only when the system feels safe, not rushed, not watched by the clock, not driven toward an outcome. When speed dominates the experience, the brain disconnects from sensation. Pleasure becomes mechanical. Awareness fades. And slowly, interest fades with it. The correction here is not dramatic. It's simple. Remove the finish line. Let the moment unfold without a goal. Slow your breathing first. Let your body settle before anything else. When the nervous system shifts into calm, circulation improves naturally. Sensitivity often follows. This is not about doing less. It's about doing slower. At this stage of life, slowness is not a limitation. It is a skill. And in the next part, we'll talk about a mistake most men have never been taught about at all. A group of muscles that quietly controls stability, control, and confidence. Losing awareness of the muscles that support control and stability. Most men were never taught about this. Not in school, not in the gym, not even in most doctor visits. Yet this muscle group quietly supports bladder control, stability, and confidence. It sits deep in the body, beneath the pelvis, acting like a foundation. Over time, especially after 60, that foundation can weaken, not because of laziness, but because of long sitting, stress, and years of holding tension without noticing it. When these muscles lose tone, other systems begin to compensate. Circulation becomes less efficient. Control feels less reliable. Sensation feels less clear. Many men try to fix the problem by focusing on surface strength. But the issue is not power. It is connection. When you are unaware of these muscles, the body operates without coordination. During private moments, some men unknowingly push downward or hold unnecessary tension. That sends the wrong signal. Instead of support, the foundation collapses inward. The correction is gentle, not forceful. Start with awareness. Notice the muscles you would use to gently pause urination midstream. That subtle lift, not a squeeze, not a strain, is the signal. Holding it briefly, then releasing slowly, helps reintroduce communication between the brain and the body. Over time, this improves circulation, control, and confidence. This is not an exercise for strength. It is an exercise for presence. And presence changes how the entire system responds. In the next part, we'll address a question many men ask silently. How often is supportive? And when does habit quietly turn into imbalance? Losing rhythm by going to extremes. This is the question many men never ask out loud. Am I doing it too often? Or not often enough? The problem is not the question itself. The problem is how men answer it. Most men swing to extremes. Some push too hard, too frequently, trying to prove something to themselves. Others slowly withdraw, telling themselves it's no longer important. But the body was never designed for extremes. It was designed for rhythm. After 60, your system becomes more sensitive to imbalance. When stimulation happens too often, recovery time shortens, energy dips. The body feels irritated instead of renewed. When stimulation disappears for long periods, circulation slows. Nerve signals quiet down. The system becomes stagnant. Both patterns create the same result: less clarity, less comfort, less confidence. The body doesn't want pressure. It wants consistency. For many men over 60, a moderate, intentional rhythm supports balance far better than intensity. Not rushed, not forced, not driven by habit, but guided by how the body feels. The day after, do you feel calm? Rested? Clear? That feedback matters more than numbers or rules. This is not about discipline. It's about listening. Because at this stage of life, your body no longer shouts. It whispers. And when you respect that rhythm, the system stays responsive instead of resistant. In the next part, we'll look at a mistake that feels logical to many men, but quietly causes more harm than good over time. Using force when the body is asking for care. This mistake usually starts with good intentions. As sensation changes with age, many men instinctively try to compensate. They grip harder. They apply more pressure. They try to push through the change. But the body after 60 does not respond well to force. Nerves become more sensitive to stress. Tissue becomes less forgiving. Recovery takes longer. When pressure increases, the nervous system tightens instead of opening. That tension limits circulation. It dulls sensitivity further. And it creates a cycle many men don't realize they're in. Less sensation leads to more force. More force leads to more irritation. More irritation leads to even less sensation. Over time, the body learns to brace instead of relax. This is not about weakness. It's about miscommunication. Your body is asking for care, but it's receiving pressure. The correction is not dramatic. It's gentle. Reduce intensity. Slow down contact. Pay attention to comfort instead of outcome. When touch becomes softer, the nervous system feels safer. And when the system feels safe, circulation improves naturally. Sensitivity often follows. This shift doesn't happen overnight, but it happens reliably. When force is replaced with patience, your body is not something to push. It's something to cooperate with. And in the final part, we'll talk about a mistake that has nothing to do with the body at all, but everything to do with how you relate to yourself. Disconnecting from yourself during private moments. This is the quietest mistake of all, and often the most painful. Over time, many men stop being present during private moments, not because they don't care, but because life has worn them down. Stress, loneliness, unspoken worries, years of carrying responsibility without rest. What once felt meaningful slowly becomes routine, mechanical, silent, empty. The body still responds, but the mind is somewhere else. When that happens, the nervous system does not release the chemicals linked to calm, bonding, and renewal. Instead of feeling settled afterward, many men feel more alone. They think this is just aging, but it's not. It's disconnection. Even when you're alone, connection still matters. Your body recognizes intention. It responds to kindness. It heals through presence. When private moments are approached with patience, gratitude, and awareness, the brain shifts into a different state. Anxiety softens. The body relaxes. Confidence rebuilds quietly. This is not about emotion in a dramatic sense. It's about respect. Respect for the body that has carried you this far. Respect for the nervous system that still wants safety. Respect for yourself. Aging does not take vitality away. It asks you to relate to it differently. When you slow down, listen, and respond with care, the body often meets you halfway. So if there's one thing I want you to remember, it's this. You are not broken. You are not behind. Your body is simply asking for a new kind of attention. And when you give it that, clarity returns, calm returns, and connection with yourself and with life becomes possible again. Mistake number 8, ignoring recovery after private moments. This mistake happens after everything is done, and that's why most men never notice it. They move on immediately, stand up, check the phone, rush back into the day. But after 60, what you do after matters almost as much as what you do during. Your nervous system needs a short recovery window to reset properly. When that window is skipped, the body stays in a half-activated state, not fully relaxed, not fully alert. Over time, this creates subtle problems, lingering tension, mental fog, a feeling of restlessness without a clear reason. The body never receives the message. You're safe now. Recovery does not require effort. It requires stillness. Just a few minutes. Slow breathing. Eyes closed. No screens. No rushing. This allows heart rate to normalize, blood flow to redistribute, the nervous system to complete the cycle. Think of it like sleep. If you wake up suddenly in the middle of deep rest, you feel worse than if you had never rested at all. The same principle applies here. When recovery is honored, the experience becomes restorative. When it's skipped, it quietly drains you. This is not about ritual. It's about completion. Your body needs a clear beginning and a clear ending. When you give it that, energy stabilizes, clarity improves, and balance becomes easier to maintain.